Audrey. I'm the photography part of the Gleam Co, and I wanted to give you some tips and tricks on how to narrow down your headshots today because you guys seem to be in the thick of having to pick and narrow down and submit all of that good stuff, and we're seeing some trends, and we're also seeing some patterns of people maybe needing a little extra help, being nervous to reach out for extra help, and everybody kind of telling them something different. So again, we are one section of this. Kayla and I usually pick out the same shots that we see as favorites. Our creative minds kind of link up in that way, but this is something that I think you should be asking multiple people. You should be asking, your photographers, you should be asking your local directors, you should be asking if you're friends with other competitors, maybe some family. But there are some tips and tricks that I want to give you to at least help narrow down from the beginning, and then also kind of think about how you want to be portrayed and what you want other people to think about you before you show up that day, because that's kind of what this process is. I always recommend starting out by looking at it in a grid fashion like this. These are some fun ones from her CSI. But if you start out going one at a time, it's going to be very overwhelming because, oh, I like that one, but then I like that one, because you can't see what's coming next. You can't see little subtle differences. I happen to know that Abby already has her official headshot selected because she got to work with one of their wonderful sponsors. And so we knew that in advance and were able to take some of these guys that particular day in order to show you this. So I'm really excited and grateful, and we get to have some fun. So as you're looking here, one of the things that you need to keep in mind is what system you're competing for, because even if you're allowed to compete in two different systems roughly around the same time or one after the other, you may not choose the same headshot for both. Just because you love one headshot doesn't mean you have to stick with one. For example, MAO is a little bit more girl next door. It's a little bit more smiley in general. It's a little bit more, I would say, light and airy, and a lot of the body positioning I'm noticing is kind of the same as far as other MAO headshots, whereas things like different organizations like Miss USA, they're a little bit more sultry, they're a little bit edgier, they're definitely, I would say, more glam. The lighting can be a bit edgier. For this, we chose to just stick with either a black and white background. We wanted to see how her hair really stuck off of the white or the black, and we wanted her in white just kind of as a basic color. As we kind of move through here, you'll notice something about Abby, and that is that she has a very strong no smiling face. She has a very strong, like, if you want to call it a smolder, if you want to call it a smize, I'm just going to call it a non-smiling expression, right? Like this is solid. For me personally, that would be a headshot contender. And when you see them in a grid here, you'll see that we have some that are a little bit more close up. We have ones that are a little bit farther away. That seems to be a little bit all over the place when it comes to what people are narrowing down and picking. I think it depends on each individual person. It also depends, if you love your hair, you may want to show more of your hair. If you love your hair the way it was styled that day, or if you're like, I don't know, like, I have really strong features, maybe not everybody does, I really want my cheekbones or whatever to stand out, then maybe a hair up shot might set you apart, because almost nobody picks a shot with their hair up. Like you're looking, this would be one of my favorites because I kind of love how this dips out, but I happen to know that a lot of headshots don't look like that. They don't really necessarily love this PC look. So even though that's a beautiful picture, in my opinion, it may not necessarily be the best one for a headshot. And you'll see here, this is before and after reflector. You can see a couple things. So if you're ever wondering what that shiny thing is, they either put in your lap or under you. If you look right here at the bottom of the eye, do you see the difference in that? And then do you see the difference overall? Again, these are not retouched, which shows you Kayla's amazing glam. But you see how it filled in a lot of this right here? She doesn't even have a lot of different, like color, like discoloration or anything like that. But with that extra bit of light, her eyes just look a little bit more awake. They look a little bit more poppy. They look a little bit more blue. And then it kind of makes the makeup sit a little bit better. That's a photography thing, right? But look at how, like, whimsical this looks in comparison to, like, these. They're not bad. There's nothing wrong with these images. But if you're going to stand out in a crowd, you want your eyes to be the brightest as possible. You want this center part of your face and this T-zone to be very, very bright. And then you want the outskirts of your face to be a little bit darker. It's also the same concept as contouring. You can kind of see, and I know I did the cardinal sin of not looking at them in a group, but like I see that this one's really pretty. I see, like, she tried some with arms up. There are certain organizations like Volunteer where you cannot show your arms and things like that. That's also very important to note that, you know, you're paying attention to all of their submission guidelines. And again, so she has smiley shots. One thing that I do know about her is that, because I did my little bit of recon, right? My little bit of research is that a lot of her previous headshots have been non-smiley shots. And the reason that I think that that is, without asking her, that I would guess as an outsider would be that if you have a strong non-smiley shot, go for it, because not everybody can do it. Not everybody has been taught how to do it, and not everybody feels confident in it. If you have a beautiful smile and you're confident in your smile, go with it. The underlying rule of thumb is that go with whatever you feel good and confident in. I have a fun little tool called Lightroom where I get to go in and I can make all kinds of fun selections and things here, and then I can narrow down easily. So we already know that they're not going to be these guys. These are more for our portfolio because they're horizontals. I'm looking here and I see, even though these are pretty, I'm seeing like the arm is kind of invading the shot a little bit, so I'm just going to kind of nix those. I think for these two, this is so blown out down here that it almost gives, this is no offense to Abby, this is 100% a photography thing. This is on me. It kind of makes her look like she has a little bit of a floating head happening just because her hair is light, the backdrop's light, her eyes are light, this outfit is light. So it's not going to give her a lot of like ability to stand out. I think her head is a little bit too kind of angled there. I think it's also a little too angled there. We do all the crazy motions because we want to make sure that you're getting every possible angle. These guys all look very similar, but what I'm noticing is this straight on power shot is probably stronger than any of these, because when I'm doing this in a grid, I'm not picturing this as the same person. This is the key here to start narrowing down. I'm picturing that every single one of these shots is a different person, because that is how the judges are going to be seeing your headshots. They may be looking at them one at a time here and there, but for the most part, like, they and viewers are going to be seeing them in a format like this where they're all together. So if you lean back and you let your eyes unfocus, I'm kind of letting them squint a little bit. I'm kind of, you know, just letting them unfocus and letting them be blurry. I'm letting whatever's jump out at me be like some of the key ones here, right? Because if you have to really look in and zoom at them, they may be a gorgeous picture, but they're not strong enough to be a headshot. So these don't pop for me. This one doesn't pop for me. This one pops for me, but not this one. I think she's a little bit too far back for that. I think this one doesn't properly show off her features well, just because I had her chin a little bit too close to camera. Fun fact, anything that is closer to camera is going to look bigger, farther away looks smaller. So if you stick your chin way back, if you're somebody who has a little bit more of a narrow chin or a little bit more of a soft jawline, me, you'll always see me kind of tip my head back a little bit because I want to emphasize that area to make it look bigger, because otherwise, for me, my face looks a little out of balance. She has a beautiful, strong chin, jawline area, so she can get away with some angles that some of us round faces cannot, but that is okay. So I think this is beautiful, but I think when she has some of these really strong faces down here, I don't think she needs a smiley shot for it. I think that, you know, if she does have one, there's nothing wrong with that, but when you've got a smolder, rock the smolder. I think out of, like, I'm looking at this bottom row right here. Personally, I love the arm up just because it's a little bit, and because her fingers are very, very soft and natural. They're not like grabbing the hair. Like this one, it's way too far away. Do you see how it doesn't look natural? These guys, they're kind of nice and relaxed. These kind of look like they're cupping the head. So I'm going to go ahead and nix these. Personally, I love how big and blue her eyes look in this one. I think even though the smolder's a little bit stronger here, I think this shows off her features better than those. I already like her hands up. And then I'm just letting my eyes, like I'm trying to use this to follow where my eyes are going. I think this is beautiful, but I think it looks like I just kind of plopped her there. I think this one is really strong. Actually, I think both of these are strong. So I'm going to mark these as 4s just so that I can kind of keep track of them. I like these two. I don't really want to be bothered with details right now, so I'm going to mark both of those as 4. I'll check them out here in a bit. I like that one. All this negative space up here can be cropped in. This is one where I would make it a close-up shot. That's a really pretty straight-on shot. I would also be peeking at that one. These are pretty, but I don't think prettier than the ones that I marked as 4s. I think this angle is a little bit stronger for her just because it tilts her chin back a little bit. Also, ADHD, so sorry for the crazy mousage. It's half the time I don't realize that you guys cannot see where my eyes are going, and I'm trying to focus. I really like these two, but I'm not sure what the differences are, so I'm just going to mark both of those. I don't think that one's stronger. I think this is a little too eye squeezy. I love that the hair is moving a little bit more in those. I think these are eye squeezy. I think this is a little too eyes open. Okay, so I like that one. Okay, so this is how I've kind of narrowed down to this point. So this is now what I'm going to start doing. I'm going to start going in little by little to see the back and forth between these two. Literally the only difference here is the hand. And I personally think that this one, just being a little bit extended here in the fingers, is more successful. So I'm going to mark that as a 5, come back out, take the 4 out. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these guys. I feel like this one she's so beautiful. It's hard to not get distracted by how pretty somebody is, right? This is also how you can kind of tell with photographers that, not to, like, you know, poop on anybody's parade, but this is also how you can tell when a photographer does not really pose people. It's almost like they're resting on the person's natural beauty and not really like directing them outside of that. I think this is one of those where she's naturally so pretty, they're all going to be beautiful, but which one kind of takes that extra like oomph moment? And this is beautiful, but it's not this one. I'm going to mark that as a 3. I think this one, the angle on my end is not that great. I would have to crop in all the way here in order to make her center. Whoops. I think this is beautiful, but I think I like the sass that the little bit of tilt gives her. So I'm going to mark that one off. I love this look for maybe like thank you cards and notes and things like that. I think I prefer where her hair is standing off from the backdrop. And now, see how we get a little bit closer? I can see that this is going to look a little bit meaner in the expression compared to this, and one of those reasons is because of the extra light that we have underneath there. Now that goes into a whole other thing. That's a photo thing. As far as like the psychology behind how you're lighting things, like if you want someone to look really edgy and create this really dynamic story behind things, usually there's more shadows, and there are more shadows and depth and things like that. But for what we're going for, we want bright, airy, approachable. Even if you're still like wanting that smolder, you still want to be seen as approachable, especially in this system. I like the head tilt here better than the straight on here. Whoops, I had already removed that one. Never mind. Okay. I think this is beautiful. I don't think it would be a bad option. I would probably narrow it down to these 3 and then start asking people for opinions. Just because I personally am a sucker for a close-up shot, I would probably go with this one. And then as a backup, because I always like to have a backup just in case, if something doesn't quite work right, or if it looks funny when it's cropped or something like this is going to be easier for them to Photoshop into your advertisements and things like that. Clearly they're not retouched because this little corner of white down here, I know that it's her outfit, I know that it's a sleeve coming down, but as the person who has creative control, I think it stands out in a negative way just in this shot, because nobody else who was there, or nobody else who was not there, is going to think that that's an outfit. They're going to think that it wasn't, they're going to think it's the backdrop that wasn't Photoshopped correctly. So I would actually make this little area black. I would probably fill in this area right here. We always clean up flyaways a little bit because they're normal, but I would go in pretty close. I don't know. I just don't think there's any competition. I think that this shows smolder. I think it shows off her features beautifully. And that's honestly how we narrowed down from, make that a 5. That long-winded process is how we narrow down from 48 images. Now, like, if we go back and look at all of these, there are other options. If your personal style is different, if you were like, oh, I wouldn't have picked that one, why didn't you see that one? This other one was very obvious, and that would have been my pick. That's also okay. Personal style comes into this. At the end of the day, you want to feel confident. And me as a photographer who has not really been in this kind of realm for very long, there's no, I don't think, a right or wrong answer, but when you're looking at a couple of these, now the lighting psychology was one part of the conversation, right? The angle of your face is another. So like if the photographer is way down, like underneath you, like really, really low, like something like here, where your chin is really pronounced and kind of pushed up, that gives off a much more confident, kind of sassy aesthetic. If your chin is down, it implies that you're a little bit more shy, a little bit more maybe like demure, things like that. And if that goes with your personality, cool. But look at these two side by side. And yes, they're clearly the same person, but they are not evoking the same emotion. So if you want the judges to look at you and pick up on like, oh yes, like strong, empowered energy, somebody who is like not afraid to not smile in their picture, then you want to go with this one. If you're someone who's like a little bit more light, airy, and like I call it like fairy princess vibes, right? That's just what it comes off in my head. I would probably aim for something a little bit more along like these lines. So you're making deliberate choices. It's not necessarily about, oh, well, these are really pretty pictures. Which one's the prettiest? Which one does my hair look the best in? It's whatever you want that judge to feel when they look at you or make assumptions about you, because they will. Like this entire process is about making assumptions about people that they have never met before they meet you. What do you want them to like see? What do you want them to think? And that's why some of it's also a game. If you have other competitors that you know for a fact, whether they're your friends or not, if you see that they all have smiling shots, girl, put in one that's not smiling, and vice versa, right? If you have Miss USA competitors and a lot of them usually don't show smiles, maybe maybe show off the pearly whites. Like, it's a game. If you know that they're, one of our clients actually just flew up from Texas, not even kidding, we were so excited, I cried. And one of the reasons behind her logic for coming to us is that system uses like mainly 1 to 2 photographers. So a lot of their girls' images look the same. Well, she wanted to stand out. So no matter what, just by going to somebody different was going to make sure that she stood out. So that's another way to look at it. Like, if you need any help at any point in time, please let us know. Whether you are clients of ours or not, we are happy to help and sit through. It's not about like which picture like is best, I would say. It's what's best for whatever you need it for. And we are always happy to help. So I hope that this was informative for you. If you need help narrowing down any pictures that you're kind of stuck between, I always tell people, ask 3 people. Ask somebody who is in the pageant world, ask somebody who knows you, and then ask somebody who doesn't know either, because some of these judges are not, like, they haven't done this before. So maybe getting an outside perspective on how this makes you look. And when you ask them, I wouldn't say, which do you think should be my headshot? Or, which one do you think I look best in? Or something like that. What I would ask, I would be very intentional in how you word it. I would say, like, okay, what three things do you feel when looking at this headshot? Or what does this look like? Or like, what mood do you think this gives off? Like, something like that. Because then you can give off a couple of different words. You can say confident, you can say sassy, you can say kind, sweet, approachable, like outgoing, fun, excited. Like, there are all these different words. And then if those words line up with how you want to be perceived, that is the shot that you pick. If the words do not align with what you thought, pick a different one. And that's pretty much what I have to share for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it wasn't too annoying just watching the mouse scroll.